stay ahead of the game in Indy.
Welcome to Fort Scott Sports Live, presented by Crochan. Here for Fort Scott women's basketball. Greyhounds starting off pretty hot this season as they host the Independence women's basketball team. The Independence Pirates coming into tonight's 1-2 as Fort Scott comes into tonight's. Lost their record, 3-0, undefeated on the season, taking down Central Methodist, Northern Oklahoma College, and Haskell. Just a couple minutes out from the opening tip-off. I'm Drake Miller here, joined in the booth by Michael, and we will be taking you through the action tonight. Michael, tell us a little bit about both of these teams and what you can maybe expect from this matchup.
Yeah, this Fort Scott team you've seen so far, as you've heard, they are 3-0. They seem to be very physical on and off the ball. They don't lose that physicality, the battle. They play hard. They attack the ball. You'll see that again tonight. Indiana, I'm sure they're a pretty good scoring team. I think their key to the game will be they seem to be pretty physical too from what I saw warming up. They're a little undersized, but I imagine they'll be pretty feisty. Don't let Fort Scott beat you in that department. Hustle, make sure you hustle the ball. If you don't hustle, Fort Scott will keep control of this game and beat you down.
Yeah, Fort Scott, they have been an aggressive team on the ball. That's something I didn't get to call the game on last Saturday, but it certainly was pretty one-sided in the Greyhounds' favor as they were just kind of bullying their opponent, and I think that's what they do best. Playing very physical, playing aggressive, attacking the ball on defense, and on offense, running kind of this routine post offense, just working it down to the base, trying to get the easy points, and if not, find the open three, take the shot, let it fall. And they've got a lot of good playmakers. Let's go ahead and get into some starters for tonight. For Independence, on the away team, number 0, the sophomore guard standing 5'1" from Ferris, Texas, Raina Edwards. Number 2, sophomore forward standing 6 foot from Bayelsa, Nigeria, Joy Biribibi. Number 5, freshman forward standing 6 foot from Lawton, Oklahoma, Denia Stillwell Smith. Number 6, the freshman guard standing 5'8" from Wichita, Kansas, Rylan Chandler. And number 15, the freshman guard standing 5 foot from Jones, Oklahoma, Carmel Lewis. And then on the other side, your Greyhounds, starting off number 5, freshman guard, 5'3" from Little Rock, Arkansas, Jasmine MacArthur. Number 11, the sophomore guard, 5'3" from Kiev, Ukraine, Sophia Fedina. Number 14, the sophomore forward, standing 5'11" from Garnett, Kansas, Caitlin Foltz. Number 15, the freshman guard, standing 5'8" from Anadarko, Oklahoma, Ashley Pula. And number 32, freshman center, standing 6 foot from Fayetteville, Arkansas, Mariah Moss. And this team is, like I said, it's full of muscle, and that's what they have done to their opponents, is out-muscle them, and you can expect that here tonight. Just a minute out from the opening tip. Michael, any last thoughts or comments?
Not really. I think we're going to see a very physical and very fast-paced battle. That's about it.
Well, these two teams getting ready mentally and physically, hyped up for this contest as they prepare to take each other on here on a beautiful Monday evening. Sun starting to go down at 5 o'clock. Feels a little bit more like a later evening game than it should, but 5:30 start time. We'll step aside for the national anthem and other opening comments, and we'll be right back. as they run through the starting lineups. Independence, like we said, coming into this matchup 1-2, as opposed to the Fort Scott 3-0. Independence so far this season took on Northern Oklahoma College Tonkawa and took them down 71-68 in a close call matchup last Wednesday. Then a couple weeks ago versus John A. Logan College at Moberly, Missouri. Final of that game, 63-55, taking the loss. And then Southern Illinois College, that was also at Moberly, Missouri in the Moberly Classic. Another loss, 89-57. So Independence unable to grab a W down in Moberly, and coming into this contest on, or at least trying to create their own win streak against the Greyhounds. Talked about some players to watch, starters being announced. We got to call the last Saturday men's game, Michael, and saw a lot of good action from there. Do you think that there's a little bit of correlation when it comes to locker room mojo? I know it's not shared locker rooms, obviously, but locker room mojo when it comes to one team is succeeding in the same season as another team.
Oh, for sure, yeah. This Fort Scott team, this ladies Fort Scott team's undefeated, as you said, and the men's Fort Scott team's been rolling. I think they're probably pretty happy, probably having a lot of fun in this basketball program all together. And what's pretty funny is they share the similar offenses. They're both high-powered. You can look back at the box scores from the recent Fort Scott women's games, and you can see they put up a lot of big points. They dropped just shy of 90 not just a couple days ago. Fort Scott's men's dropped to 107. I'm sure they just have a lot of the same chemistry, and they share a lot of big bonds over there.
Well, just only moments away now from the opening tip as these two teams take the floor. Looks like Independence with a very crowded bench tonight, as opposed to Fort Scott's, who only has what I believe to be two registered bench players tonight, those being Jasmine Rousseau and Adriana Moore. So you have a forward and a center on your bench, no benched guards. That can mean a lot coming down the stretch for these guards that are going to be moving around a lot in this first quarter. And here we are, getting started. 10 minutes, winding down. Fadina gets the steal early, passes it off. MacArthur on the transition, drops it in for a bucket. And MacArthur's a little bit bruised up after that one. She had it. Go ahead.
Gave her the commentator's curse there. No backup, hardly any backup guards, and first play of the game, she goes down holding her ankle.
Well, I was more so just saying, you know, exhaustion, but she don't want to speculate on anything, as she is standing, which is a good sign in general, obviously. She did take an awkward step there, got that kind of transition, and found herself not like an even 2 strides away from the basket, which I think may have caused that tweak, because she had to kind of break down a little bit early on that second step and go more vertical with the ball rather than, you know, catch it in stride. And I don't think that was a passing error. I think it was genuinely just, you know, you see that that opening occurred a little bit later than you would want.
Yeah, just a basketball play that happened there, and it's an unfortunate outcome. And someone who's had quite a few ankle tweaks during high school, I'm gonna guess she just landed on it wrong, just put the wrong amount of weight on it when she was trying to jump for the layup and stop, and that's gonna sting for a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully seeing her later on in this contest, as we wish her the speediest of recoveries. Jasmine Rousseau steps in her place. So MacArthur grabs the first 2 points within the first minute. And now it'll be Independence working their offense after their steal, and they give it away again. This time, Poua's gonna take it down the floor and slow things down. Drives to the base, kick out. Now they try to find Rasaw at the elbow. A little bit of a scuffle there between hands. Ends up with the Greyhounds. Rasaw at the top of the key. Here's Moss working it down low. Rasaw using some physicality. Foltz gets the board and drops in 2. Great heads-up awareness by Caitlin Foltz. Here's Stillwell Smith working it around to Lewis. Lewis tries to get it inside to Smith. Now they'll reset here on the Pirates side. Shot clock inside of 10. Moss breaks the ball loose, tries to keep it in bounds to Rasaw. And grabbing it was Birababe. And out of bounds, she steps, which turns the ball over 3 for 3. And I gotta say, 3 for 3 on forced turnovers from the Greyhounds. That was a great effort by Moss and pays off. Big steal there from Lewis, who tries to break the seal on the Independence points, and she does. Drops in 2. Fedina taking it down the floor. Trying to work the offense. Moss behind the back, showing off some of the handles. Bula goes underneath and gets called for a travel. She's fighting through some physicality. Probably a fortunate call for her, as that could have potentially ended in a charge. But I think she was looking for the block foul, actually.
Yeah, you can see early on here the physicality from both sides of the ball has been there. Both teams are very resilient and very adamant on what they want to do, which is just get the ball and score it.
First three-point shot goes up off the back iron from Chandler. Rebound Lewis. Lewis works it down to Edwards, who loses the ball out of bounds. Greyhounds take over. 4-2. Lots of physicality defensively as Independence comes out in full court press for the second time. Pula trying to get past her defender, Lewis. Lewis almost pokes it free. Pula has to get it across, and she does. Moss takes over, and now Pula is holding her back a little bit. Hopefully she's okay after that fall. They work it into the paint with Moss. Moss uses her size, can't get the bucket. And the rebound falls in the hands of Stillwell Smith. Edwards underneath. Smith trying to post up, can't get it. Rebound Moss. Pula. Big steps and gets the block foul on her way to the bucket, as she is still pretty stiff after that fall. And even more raising concern now, that's Pula, who is registered as a guard. That would be 2 guards gone in the first quarter, as MacArthur has not returned to the bench. And now Adriana Moore will check in and sub in for Mariah Moss. Pula's holding that back right, lower right side of her back. This is on the first free throw attempt and drops in the second. 5-2. Independence working the outside as they've subbed in Jade Olney. Missed bucket goes to the Greyhounds again. The offensive rebounding has certainly not been in their favor as of early on tonight, But another costly turnover, and the Greyhounds have not been able to extend this out of one possession.
Yeah, Drake, you can really see what Independence's game plan is thus far going into it, and that's to speed up Fort Scott. And they, especially with the loss of MacArthur, they've been able to really capitalize on that, and they're really just picking up all 84 feet, and they're causing turnovers and mistakes, and so far they're getting the shots they want. They just aren't falling just yet.
They work it underneath. Here's Smith, tries to attack the backboard, can't get it. Off the glass. Lewis, or excuse me, that was Edwards trying to work it underneath, and it's picked away. Fedina will start to work the point. I like this call. Pua clearly, visibly, kind of working off of that injury, but she takes it to the rim, keeps the aggression high, and makes this a two-possession game for only the second time tonight. Edwards working the point for the Pirates. Here's only... Still keeping it wide. Shot clock at 10. Shot from Smith goes nowhere. And we've got a foul called on the floor. We'll see what this one ends up in, as these Greyhound ladies are already showing some signs of exhaustion. And with such a shortened roster too, raises some concern early on. Fedina was hands on knees there, but they are certainly not showing it when they've got the ball, and on defense either. Just taking their breaks in between. Fedina on the far wing, trying to find Rasaw, can't get it, and she gets it pulled away. Philippa Ferguson, and the missed bucket as Rasaw comes down with it. Gets called for a travel. Ferguson was not able to get it into the rim. And we've got our first media timeout of the night here in quarter one. We'll take a break, and we'll be right back on Fort Scott Sports Live, presented by Crockhand.
Call service is outstanding in their field, especially for those that are stuck, well, outstanding in their field. Coles carries a wide selection of farm, industrial, and heavy-duty tires, all from the best brands in the business. And they've got farm service trucks ready to go. Plus, Coles continues to be the place folks go for car and truck tires, repairs, oil changes, and so much more. If you're in the market for new tires in Southeast Kansas, make the right call to Coles Service, 620-724-4121. See more at ColesServiceLLC.com. You've heard go big or go home. At Big Iron Auctions, you can go big from home. With thousands of pieces of equipment, active auctions, bidding at your convenience, and an easy-to-use site, BigIronAuctions.com can help you grow big. Call Tyler Jackman at 620-404-8115 to see how Big Iron Auctions can help grow your operation. Bid now, list now at BigIronAuctions.com.
At the Farm and Ranch Division of the...
A hard time walking, but...
And we're back on Fort Scott Sports Live, presented by Crockhand. 7-2's the score, 5-point difference here in the first quarter, and some big, I guess, situations here early on with Pua seemingly suffering a bit of a back tweak, as she was holding on to that earlier on in this contest, and MacArthur leaving for the locker room after only 30 seconds. Independence still with a very deep bench, coming out in that full court press, trying to take advantage of the limited bodies on the Greyhound side. And they'll grab their second bucket of the night. Makes it 7-4. Fedina trying to work that far side. Kicks it out. Fultz works it to Pua, who drives underneath, goes through some physicality, and can't get the bucket, but it's out of bounds. Last touched by Philippa Ferguson. freshman guard from the Bahamas. Inbound will work its way all the way to Rasaw, and it's dropped on its transition. The layup will not go. Rylan Chandler had an opportunity. Rasaw applied a little bit of pressure there at the end. Kept her from dropping in the buckets. And that's gonna be a costly one when you're looking back on this. Could have made it a 1-point game. All of a sudden, it's still 3 as Pula tries to knife her way into the paint and gets fouled on her way to the buckets. Shooting 2.
Despite this back tweak, Pula's doing a phenomenal job at, just slicing her way through the defense, faking one way and going the other and getting to the basket through contact and drawing fouls. And that's the one thing you need to do if you're Fort Scott. Put all these 12 players that Independence has in foul trouble so they can't be as aggressive.
Yeah, I think that's another key thing to keep an eye on is you can't foul out a single player if you're Fort Scott, as that would be incredibly costly, keeping every single player that isn't fouled out on the floor. Pula, go ahead.
I think that's why you can see those there are 2 big men back there. They don't even want to risk an off the ball foul on the rebound right now.
Subbing in for Independence, Jada Walton, who works it down to the corner with Smith. Here's Walton for 3, nothing on that shot. And we'll get, I believe, an off-ball foul there called against Philippa Ferguson. Ferguson getting involved early, just maybe not in the most effective ways that this Pirates team needs her to be as she gets subbed out. Coming in for her is Jade Alini. Here's Fedina.
Yeah, there's those fresh legs coming off the bench, already just giving number 11 a hard time. They bring a fresh leg in every 90 seconds, it feels like, and these Fort Scott players just don't have a break.
Rasaw nearly loses the ball, but picks it up and gets the buckets. Puts the Greyhounds into double digits here in the first quarter. This is a gritty fight for this Greyhounds team as they take away once more. Caitlin Foltz on the steal, works it to Pua on the break, and they'll slow things down once more. Here's Moss at the top of the key. She tries to work her way underneath. She gets her own rebound off the tip and fights through for the and 1. Great effort by Mariah Moss. Grabs 2 and gets a chance for 3.
Yeah, Drake, there's that physicality we've been talking about, using that size against them. She's just resilient down there. Her goal is to go down there and put the ball in the hoop, and no matter how many tries it's going to take, she will make sure it happens.
And a positive look out here as MacArthur actually subs in here for Sophia Fedina. MacArthur with a little extra wrapping on that right, I believe, knee. Maybe for some stability there. So keeping an eye on her as she might be a little bit bouncy on that right leg, at least to start. Testing the bounds. They'll work it to the corner. Alini tries to kick out, and Moss pulls it out of her hands, out of bounds.
One thing Fort Scott does so well on the defensive side of the ball is take their hands to the ball. And another thing is they don't foul while doing it. And it just causes so much disruption and chaos for this Independence offense.
The inbound goes straight to Pula as she Euro steps in the paint and can't get it in. Was a little off tempo there, maybe even a travel, as some of the Pirates fans and bench were calling for it. Here's a shot from the elbow, taken by Lewis. Rebound Pirates. Shot once more will not fall, and MacArthur will stop it for a timeout here. And that's, I think, a smart timeout call. We're going to keep it here for the time being because I want to talk a little bit about how big of a deal this timeout is. And I think you're going to see the Greyhounds use their timeouts for recovery periods a lot more than it's going to be for game tempo.
Yes, for sure. Especially the team that they're facing against, they have, I think they have the skill advantage overall, and you've seen it thus far. All they really need to do is stick to their game plan and stay healthy, stay light. They need to stay energized. And as you can see, MacArthur just didn't look very strong that leg, and she's already back on the bench, so I'm really curious to see how that pans out for the rest of the game.
Well, and I think she kind of served a great purpose there too, as we saw Fadina kind of showing some signs of exhaustion early on. She gets a little bit of a rest, probably about 3-4 minutes, and now she can head back onto the court with a little bit of energy regained from being able to, sit on that bench a little bit, even though MacArthur didn't get involved as much as you maybe expected her to. Poulin nearly loses the ball there. Looking for a passing opportunity, tries to get it Fadina, and it's taken away. Fadina looked like she got bonked on the nose. And taking it to the basket was what looks like Lewis. Fadina was holding that nose, still is. Every little nick and bruise is gonna be something to look out for this Greyhounds team. As they can completely turn this game on its head.
Independence just needs to keep it up. The shots will come. I mean, they have generated pressure all 7 minutes of this game, but I don't know their exact field goal number, but I would imagine it's very low.
We can talk about it right here, as I've got it. 16% from the field, 50% for Fort Scott, as they've just taken a fewer number, but they've capitalized on more as well. And headed to the basket, gets fouled. This time, it is Jay Delaney, who will be taken 2 from the free throw stripe.
And one thing you can notice, what just happened in the last 2 plays, is 2 fouls against Fort Scott. Independence, they're sticking to their game plan. They're not making the shots, but they're getting the free shots. And if they can make those fall at the very least, you will see the score difference shrink even more and more.
Well, I'll tell you what, they're 0 for 3 right now from the line, and that is a big deal in such a low-scoring game, only 16 total points. And they finally drop in a free throw, make this game 12-5. Fadina inside of the last minute of quarter number 1. They work it down across midcourt. Now here's Moss, top of the key. Works it to her right. Rassau over to Fadina, who takes a 3. Yes! Fadina's got it. First 3. Open up the gates here for Greyhounds basketball.
Yeah, Drake, that shot is huge for Fort Scott. As you've seen thus far, Independence is 0% from the three-point stripe. So that means that they now have to score 5 two-point baskets to get the lead back to tied.
And here's another foul. Deribib will be headed to the line. Excuse me, I think I mispronounced that. That's Beer Baby. And she misses her first. So 1 for 5. And they make it 2 for 6 as we've got a they'll call a foul against Rassau, count the free throw, but it will give Independence another chance to score before the end of the quarter. This could be big for momentum carrying it into that second quarter of basketball. And not to mention, no, take it back, it's bonus. So a chance for Alini. Maybe not. I'm being deceived here. We're switching things up back and forth. They finally go back to the inbound formation. It'll be Karma Lewis on the inbound. As the officials discuss.
Going back to that foul trouble issue, as you could, if you were counting at home, I believe those 4 or 5 straight possessions where Fort Scott had a foul charged against them. That's just not what you want to see throughout the rest of this game with Fort Scott. So hopefully at this this first quarter break, the coach can go in there and tell them to sharpen up.
So I think they were discussing score because I think one of the officials was miscounting. Alini gets the inbound, tries to work it underneath, and it's off the chest of Tylasia Millsap, the freshman center from Summerall, Mississippi. Pula gets the inbound, works it to Fadina. She's gonna hold on to it until the buzzer, and that will conclude the first quarter of action. 15-6 is the score, and we'll take a break here on Fort Scott Sports Live, presented by Crochan. Stay tuned.
At the Farm and Ranch Division of the Four-State Agency, we're a team of experts who genuinely care about you and your farming operation. That's why whether it's a visit to your farm or a friendly chat at our office, we're committed to delivering the service you deserve. Our team is fully licensed in both crop insurance and LRP, allowing us to cover your entire farming operation across Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Contact us today to see how we can help.
Your home for live, local sports. Varsity Sports Live delivers professional level coverage with high quality video and broadcasters that know your schools and community.
Touchdown, Tonganoxie!
With the support of local businesses, you never pay to watch varsity sports. Live, local, free high school sports coverage. That's Varsity Sports Live.
Grass gets it away. Moore's down the middle. And he makes the catch in the end zone. Touchdown, Trojans!
Keep up with the action at varsitysportslive.com. Live, local, free high school sports.
Today we're going to do an experiment to see just how fast.
And we're back on Fort Scott Sports Live here in Arnold Arena as the Greyhounds host the Independence Pirates, so far with a 9-point lead tonight. If you've missed the first quarter, some big things were happening. Jasmine MacArthur went out in the first 30 seconds, was one of 2 reserve players. Well, I guess she was a starter, but the Greyhounds only had 2 reserve players on the bench, so now only 1. They're rocking with a 6-person roster. MacArthur did enter the game later on in quarter 1, but only for a moment as she was quickly subbed out, feeling some tenderness in that leg injury. She might see her come back in later on to give some of these guards the recovery that they might need. A great attempted steal from Karma Lewis as she lays out to try and keep it in bounds. Looks like Tylasia Millsap has some tissues in her nose from that ball hitting her earlier. Said it went off of her chest, but it looked like it went off of her face. Maybe suffering some nosebleed there. Fadina gets the inbound. Moves it to Rasaw. Rasaw to Fultz, keeping it outside the perimeter. Adriana Moore has come in for Mariah Moss. Pua takes a paint shot, won't go. Rebound Moore as she fights for the ball. works it to Fultz. Fultz to Pula across the court. Carves inside, out to Fedina. Corner three, won't go. Rebound Pirates.
You are seeing great dribble drive penetration from this Fort Scott offense. They really do a great job of penetrating inside the paint and then dishing it out for a three-point shooter if they can't get a good look at the basket.
That's a second air ball from the Pirates tonight from three-point range. They've yet to see one drop from outside of the arc. A third of their points coming from the free throw line as well, and they're only shooting 33% from the line. So that's saying anything about the opportunities that they've had. You know, they just have not been able to capitalize like they should be.
Yeah, Independence have had a plentiful amount of opportunity, and they've kind of just squandered it this far on offense.
Maddie Moran steps in, number 4. Freshman forward, standing 5'11" from Prosper, Texas. Alongside her, Chandler has also joined the floor here in the second quarter. They work it to Lewis, now over to Edwards. They go back and forth. Moran, shot clock inside of 5. Works it underneath to Smith, who grabs a nice bucket. A little bit of awkward positioning, but that seems to be the Pirates' specialty. Fedina. Will work it down the floor. Try to get it to Moore, and it's taken away. Here's Ryland Chandler. Routine layup in for 2, and that's exactly what the Pirates are going to need to bring themselves back into this game.
Yeah, that high press is really going to pay dividends for Independence throughout this game.
Fedina tries for a 3 again, won't go, and the Pirates take over. Chandler, pump fake 3, works it across to Lewis, underneath to Smith, takes the shot from the post, no dice. Now, transition offense as they slow things down. The pass to Pua, batted away by Moran, but gathered again by the Greyhounds. Fultz, we've yet to see her take a shot tonight. She's very successful in last week's contest against Northern Oklahoma Enid. Here's a long 2 from Fedina. In the bucket. Takes a step in from the three-point arc and knocks one down. Puts 2 on the board.
Yes, that was a great bucket, but I really admire Independence Pirates, their coaching. They're running a great defensive scheme to keep their players really stay not exhausted, and really keep them clean, keep them fresh, while running that high pressure still. They're running that 2-3 zone with bringing that guy in the middle bottom zone to the high post, and just swinging. It's really easy for them to rotate throughout the passes along the perimeter, and they have high pressure the whole time. They're not moving too much individually, but as a unit, they are keeping that pressure tight.
17-10 as they are keeping that pressure tight. Kind of a modified 1-3. As Pula works it underneath. Here's Moss, who subs back in and gets the buckets. Mariah Moss has been a great asset for this Greyhounds team tonight.
This has been a great coaching battle. One team has a great defensive scheme, and the other team has a great offensive scheme. Fort Scott, their coaches came in there and just gave them a game plan to battle against that 2-3 zone, and they just knifed at it perfectly.
Maddie Moran tries to put one up on the rim, and not even really close, as that was from mid-range and didn't even make it to the buckets. Mariah Moss was on some great defense there on the other side of the floor. Now she's gonna try to transition into offense, and she does it fluidly. Into the 20s go the Greyhounds.
And there's that physicality and that size that Fort Scott is known for having in this women's basketball team. Moss is great at getting down there and just dominating the post and just taking advantage of the defender behind her.
Moss just kind of out physicality. I don't know if that's really a word, but just physically beating down these forwards and centers of the Independence Pirates as they're gonna sub in Joy Birababy for what I believe to be, I don't know actually. Still trying to figure out who they sub, but we'll take a break and we'll be right back on Fort Scott Sports Live, presented by Crawcan.
Today we're going to do an experiment to see just how fast Crawcan's multi-gig internet is. In your email, you'll find 2 links. When I say go, click on the first link to download the 500 gigabyte test file. Go! Okay, now when I say go, click on the second link in your email to upload the file. Go! I guess it really does eclipse all other internet.
Release the Crawcan. Monstrous multi-gig speeds for a low, no-nonsense price.
At Fort Scott Community College, we understand that a scary part of figuring out your future isn't only answering the question, what should I do, but where do I belong? Maybe you belong here as part of Fort Scott Community College's John Deere Tech program. Maybe you belong here as part of the perennial playoff-bound Greyhound baseball team. I don't know where you've been or where you're headed, but I know we're saving a spot for you because you belong at Fort Scott Community College.
Selling equipment can be a hassle.
21-10 is the score halfway through quarter number 2. As Fort Scott leads by 11. They've been keeping a nice 3 to 4 possession lead on the board since quarter number 1. Saw Independence start to strike back, but not really to any avail so far. They work to Rasaw at the top of the key. Hand off to Foltz, and now Pua over to Fadina. Fort Scott, here's a shot from Pula, won't go. Rebound, Chandler, who tries to knife her way underneath. And whistle blown from behind. I don't even think, I mean, you know, I might be a little biased here, but I don't even think she was really touched at the end of that transaction.
No, that was definitely ticky-tacky, but one thing you could take away from that is that's one of the first fouls I've noticed Fort Scott commit this quarter, which has been great, especially to get the end of that end of the first quarter. They've done a great job of maintaining their own foul count, which is huge for this against this Independence team.
Chandler capitalizes on her first of 2 free throws. And we'll drop in number 2 as well. Cuts the lead down to 9. Now Pula on the inbound. Will quarterback it over to Fadina. Fadina was getting shifty down there, trying to break free of that full court press. Mariah Moss sets the screen. Fadina pulls up from the top of the key, just off the rim. Rebound Moss, fighting her way in the post. Won't go. Try number 2 is good. Mariah Moss continuing to dominate at the baseline.
Mariah Moss, when you think of her, you think of the definition of brute force. I mean, she's a force to be reckoned with down low, and she's just unleashing it against this Independence Pirates defense.
And underneath, Edwards runs into her, tries to get the ball off, and it's taken away. Greyhounds with an extra possession here off the turnover. Pula working the top, finds herself at the free throw line, works it to Fadina. Fadina will get smacked. I think she got poked in the eye. See if she's able to recover.
I'll tell you what, they make him a little differently up in Ukraine. She seems to be very, very resilient. She's been getting battered all night, and it looks like it doesn't really even bother her. She's fighting through it already. I'm sure we'll see her all night. I don't think an injury's going to knock her out of this game tonight.
Well, it looked like Mariah Moss was going to sub in for her temporarily, but she gets checked out real quick and might have a little bit of blood coming from right underneath the eye. Keep an eye on that as well. As here's Chandler working the top of the key here for the Pirates. Underneath. They work it to Smith. Smith coming from the side. Can't get the bucket. She just tosses one up, falling backwards. Feel like an extra pass or two there could have been beneficial for Independence, but they don't find any of the openings. Great collapse defense from the Greyhounds. Blah works it to Moore. Moore will take a long two off the front of the rim and rebounded by Lewis. Here's a three-point look. Alini can't connect. Rebound goes to Chandler, who will try to knife her way underneath. Can't go on the layup. And another Fort Scott possession, but without a walk by Adriana Moore.
Now, if I'm Fort Scott here in these last 2 minutes of play, get the ball and hold it. Don't give Independence a chance to get any last-minute steals, transition buckets, and shorten that lead. So protect the ball, work against that zone offense, take what they give you in those 30 seconds of shot clock.
A little bit of a messy scuffle between the two teams there on that transaction. Ends up in an Independence bucket as they find 2 points from the paint. Fedina trying to work her way down the floor. Gets across midcourt. Lewis slipping up. Stays on her feet. Bula works it around the perimeter. And it will be taken away by the Pirates, who get a steal. Fedina was trying to get the extra pass to Moore underneath. Didn't quite find the opening. Here's Alini.
We're starting to see that exhaustion from Fedina. She's getting some rotation. She's getting snapped. Yeah, look at her, my goodness.
And fighting through physicality. Offensive foul called against Stillwell Smith. Fedina was there at the free throw line. Oh, and
there's that physicality on full display from the Fort Scott offense.
Both sides pleading their case there. No whistle blown as Independence wanted a foul. Fort Scott saying it was a flop. And one from Alini. I'm afraid there might be a fire to be fueled here from the Pirates. Got to be careful if you're Fort Scott. You can't be working with your emotions.
That's exactly what Independence wants to do. They want to get you in your feelings. They want to make you mad. They really want to cause those fouls. They want to make you make mistakes. And right now, like I said earlier, don't let them do that, especially in the last minute. That's how they're going to get all their points.
Well, Rasaw enters foul trouble here in the first half as they drop in the free throw. Rasaw at 3 fouls, the only player out of both teams at 3 fouls. You have Moss, Fedina, and Pula with a foul apiece. The rest playing pretty clean for Fort Scott. Pula works it to Moss, spin move. Tries to get underneath and drops in the layup underhand. Good bucket from Mariah Moss. Maddie Moran short on the three-point try. 15.5 seconds remaining in this first half. And the chirps are starting to come from both sides as the aggression only intensifies here in Arnold Arena. Fedina on the inbound, works it. Pula back to Fedina. Fort Scott will probably try to hang on to this one and get a last-minute shot if possible. Pula takes a three off the iron, won't go. Rebound Independence, and Lewis will not get the shot off in time for the halftime buzzer. 25-17 is the score. We'll take a break. We'll be right back for the halftime show here on Fort Scott Sports Live. Stay tuned. This is only getting started.
Selling equipment can be a hassle. Whether you're needing to replace an old tractor or you're finally getting to retire, the time and energy needed to clean, prep, promote, and sell seems daunting. That's why you need Tyler Jackman and Big Iron Auctions. From one piece to the whole farm, Big Iron Auctions can deliver your items to more than 750,000 registered bidders. Call Tyler Jackman at 620-404-8115 or learn more at BigIronAuctions.com. Call service is outstanding in their field, especially for those that are stuck, well, outstanding in their field. Coles carries a wide selection of farm, industrial, and heavy-duty tires, all from the best brands in the business. And they've got farm service trucks ready to go. Plus, Coles continues to be the place folks go for car and truck tires, repairs, oil changes, and so much more. If you're in the market for new tires in Southeast Kansas, make the right call to Coles Service, 620-724-4121. See more at ColesServiceLLC.com. You've heard go big or go home. At Big Iron Auctions, you can go big from home. With thousands of pieces of equipment, active auctions, bidding at your convenience, and an easy-to-use site, BigIronAuctions.com can help you grow big. Call Tyler Jackman at 620-404-8115 to see how Big Iron Auctions can help grow your operation. Bid now, list now at BigIronAuctions.com.
At the Farm and Ranch Division of the Four-State Agency, we're a team of experts who genuinely care about you and your farming operation. That's why whether it's a visit to your farm or a friendly chat at our office, we're committed to delivering the service you deserve. Our team is fully licensed in both crop insurance and LRP, allowing us to cover your entire farming operation across Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Contact us today to see how we can help.
Your home.
Back for the Big Iron Auctions halftime show here on Fort Scott Sports Live. Scores 25-17 after a half of play. And man, it's been exciting, it's been aggressive, and it's been very interesting so far. So in the first 30 seconds, we'll go ahead and recap this first half of action. First 30 seconds, Jasmine MacArthur of the Greyhounds goes out with something of the sort on her right leg. I don't know if it was ankle or knee, but regardless, we've only seen her one other time throughout this game. She subbed in for Sophia Fedina for about 2 or 3 minutes, didn't even get a pass, but came in, gave Fedina the rest that maybe Fort Scott was trying to get to her, and then subbed right back out. Didn't see her at all in the second quarter. And then throughout that first quarter as well, Pula was hanging on to her lower right back with a bit of a tweak there from what I can presume. And a bit of a development in that story as Pula has actually gone into the locker room wearing a back brace and had to be helped into the locker room of the Greyhounds, Lady Greyhounds team, which is very concerning, with other drama being that the Greyhounds only came into this game with 7 players rostered, meaning that if Pula and MacArthur are unable to play, this will leave 5 players on the court. Not to mention, Jasmine Rasaw has 3 fouls right now, and she will be forced to be on the floor here in this second half if Pula and MacArthur are unable to play. Obviously, I don't want to speculate. They may have to kind of sub MacArthur in and just have her walk the floor at times throughout this game just to try and keep themselves in this contest. But man, just a lot of concerns going on, because not to mention the numbers disadvantage here, but also you have to think about the fact that this forces the Greyhounds to play a 2 center, 2 forward, 1 guard offense and defense, which means if you don't get the board, you're pretty much donezo around the perimeter. So a lot of developments happening. Of course, we're going to be waiting to see how this all pans out in the second half. what Fort Scott decides or elects to do in the second half. But Michael, give me your input on some of this drama here in the first half.
Yeah, this drama really is exactly what Independence needs for a really solid chance to take over this game and take control of the ballgame. All these developments that have happened have really played right into Independence's scheme and their transition offense, their fast-paced offense, playing defense all 94 feet of the court. When they have 2 forwards and 2 centers, Fort Scott takes a huge hit in the ball control department, and that's exactly what you need. You need ball control, guard discipline. You need all those factors in that offense, and when you don't have that, it looks dicey. It starts to look really scary. So I'm really interested to see how Independence attacks this weakness that Fort Scott has newly developed.
Yeah, and Independence, rostering well over 10 players, sitting at 13 on the contest, so almost double what Fort Scott has. And if you count MacArthur as inactive, it is double. It's over double, as a matter of fact. So that's going to be a huge development. Mariah Moss, though, has been doing an excellent job in the post. 6 rebounds, 10 points, and only 1 foul. So keeping that number limited is going to be key for Moss, because she is a very physical player down low, and you're going to want to save up some of that physicality or that potential physicality for later on in this game, because it may just be you on the floor for the rest of this contest. As we said before, Pua leaving the halftime break with a back brace on into the locker room. So very interested to see how this all pans out. We're going to take one more break here on the Big Iron Auctions halftime show on Fort Scott Sports Live, and we'll be right back with stats and other game analysis before the second half tip. Stay tuned.
Your home for live local sports. Varsity Sports Live delivers professional level coverage with high quality video and broadcasters that know your schools and community.
Touchdown, Tonganoxie!
With the support of local businesses, you never pay to watch varsity sports. Live, local, free high school sports coverage. That's Varsity Sports Live.
Grass gets it away. Moore's down the middle. And he makes the catch in the end zone. Touchdown, Trojans!
Keep up with the action at varsitysportslive.com. Live, local, free high school sports.
Today we're going to do an experiment to see just how fast Crawlcan's multi-gig internet is. In your email, you'll find 2 links. When I say go, click on the first link to download the 500 gigabyte test file. Go! Okay, now when I say go, click on the second link in your email to upload the file. Go! I guess it really does eclipse all other internet.
Release the Crawcan. Monstrous multi-gig speeds for a low, no-nonsense price.
At Fort Scott Community College, we understand that a scary part of figuring out your future isn't only answering the question, what should I do, but where do I belong? Maybe you belong here as part of Fort Scott Community College's John Deere Tech program. Maybe you belong here as part of the perennial playoff-bound Greyhound baseball team. I don't know where you've been or where you're headed, but I know we're saving a spot for you because you belong at Fort Scott Community College.
Back on the Big Iron Auctions halftime show here on Fort Scott Sports Live, presented by Crawcan. And the teams, or at least Independence, now joining the court once more. And we talked about the drama. Now let's talk about the stats. What has gotten us to this point? 25-17 is the score. Right now, Fort Scott shooting 40.7% from the floor, as opposed to Independence's 24%. 6 of 25 for Independence, 11 of 27 for Fort Scott. That has really been the difference maker tonight. And not to mention, just to tack on an insult to injury, not to be ironic in that statement, but 55% from the free throw stripe. Independence could easily have 4 extra points on the board if they were making their free throws.
Yeah, you've been seeing that a lot lately in college basketball. Nobody's making free throws. Fort Scott, same. I mean, what are they shooting? To 40%, 2 for 5 from free throw. Take what they give you. nobody's done that recently, and Independence especially. They have not taken what Fort Scott has given them all. They've forced so many turnovers. They've gotten to the rack, and they just cannot convert. So we really hope to see that from Independence this half, especially with the new developments we've seen at halftime.
Yeah, and then looking at three-point percentage, Independence has taken 8 shots from outside the arc and hasn't connected on a single one. Fort Scott 1 for 4. I like the fact, Fort Scott, they can kind of acknowledge their strengths and their weaknesses. I think MacArthur was primarily their three-point shooter, with her being absent a majority of this first half. You can kind of say, hey, three-pointers really off the board. The only person that's really taken those three-point shots has been Sophia Fedina, and she's 1 for 3 on the night. So Pula 0 for 1. I think you got to just say, hey, we're working with a bit of a bigger, a taller set here tonight. You had one of your guards leave the game. You got to rotate in a forward or a center in place of that body. So all of a sudden you're starting to work the baseline a little bit more. I like the way that Fort Scott's adapted. Obviously this is a great coaching job by this Fort Scott staff, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this second half pans out, because as we said before, Pula potentially leaving this game and being inactive for the remainder will leave it as a 2 center, 2 forward, 1 guard set. But another stat, looking at just in general there, towards the end of the first half, we saw the rebound number skewed towards Fort Scott, and then later on really started to come back towards Independence as they were grabbing some defensive rebounds there on the last few possessions. I'd like to see, if Fort Scott's forced to come out in a taller set, that they attack the board much more aggressive. You got to start reeling in those rebounds if you're going to play that baseline game, especially on offense, because those are what are going to give you your second chances. You're going to go up to the glass. Second chances usually give you the points.
Yes, Fort Scott needs to, their whole, I would say the highlight, what they would write on the board in the halftime locker room is control the basketball. That's what you need to do. You need to take control of the game. No mistakes. Limit the mistakes. Don't turn the ball over. That basketball needs to be your newborn son. You can't let it get stolen. You can't let it get ripped from you. You got to take care of it and convert on your opportunities.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we're going to be seeing here in this second half is a lot of rotation from this Independence team, and you can really tell that the coaching staff of Independence knows what they're doing as well, because they've been rotating in and out and giving Alexis Sturgis, a bit of a tough time on this Fort Scott side of things, as she's been trying to work through some injuries and work through some inactives. You obviously, if a player isn't really having the greatest mojo, you'd like to see them take a seat on the bench and recollect their thoughts, but can't do that. You don't have the bodies to do that tonight. But head coach Shavonda Price has done a great job rotating some bodies in and out, making sure that there's always a fresh face on the court, and just keeping things active on this Independence side. As we see Fort Scott take the floor, Sturgis exits the locker room last. MacArthur does come back with a little bit of a limp, but no sign of Ashley Pula, which is of the utmost.
She's on the bench.
Oh, excuse me. She is on the bench, but she is wearing that back brace still. So I'll be interested to see how, if she sees any playing time, or if they decide to just keep her idle on the bench on recovery. It may come down to the point where you feel like, is players' health obviously more important than a simple win on the record book or an undefeated. And that's another thing. This is a big deal when you're staring down a potential defeat that could ruin an undefeated season, and potentially kind of ruining that mojo early on can change the rails, can kind of derail the season way too early.
Yeah, I agree. It's really unfortunate situation for his Fort Scott team, especially so early in this season. Coach Sturgis is at a crossroad right now. I mean, she has to decide, what's more important, really, the win or the players' health. And I'm sure she's going for both. I'm sure she's going to try to keep her players as healthy as possible. But if she needs to toss them in there, just to even give their players a breath, I think she might have to do that.
Well,
because the win is just as important.
Here's a big development. Pulaw takes the floor here to start off the second half. To our surprise, I think, and most of the fans as well, as she seemed to be pretty injured, but they are going to be running with both Moore and Moss, keeping Rasaw on the bench. I think, honestly, this is a great play by Sturgis. You got to keep Rasaw a little bit on reserves. You can't have her fouling out too early and forcing some of these injured players to play too quickly. So they work the perimeter here with the Pirates. Pulaw playing a little bit more reserved on defense. Not going as aggressive for the pickpockets as she usually does. Underneath, and it's a loose ball, ends up in the hands of Fultz. Great defense underneath by Moore and Moss. That's gonna be a tough duo to get past in the post. Moss works it over to Pulaw. Moore finds Fultz on the perimeter. And now it's to Fedina. Fedina at the post. Moss tries to find a lane. Shot clock at 5. And it's going to be a lane violation going against the Greyhounds. Not too bad of an equation, though. You wasted a lot of time off the clock. You held onto the ball off of your turnover. Now a minute's gone. And it's a reset here for Independence.
And it's a great job by Coach Price. She's knew what the game plan was going to be coming out of the half. And she knew Fort Scott was going to come with 2 centers, 2 forwards. And she did a great job of forcing the double team down low and causing those Mariah Moss to be panicked down there. She had nowhere to go. She had 3 players on her. Independence will expect to see that pressure from them throughout the game.
Here's an underneath bucket as Alaini finds a lane underneath Moore and Moss and gets 2 added to the scoreboard for the Pirates. Pulaw finds space over on the right side, and they'll work it to Moss at the top. Trying to find Fultz underneath. Pass just a little too slow, and it'll be a takeaway for Independence.
There's that guard discipline I was talking about at halftime. They're really hurting from losing their 2 guards on the bench there. Having Mariah Moss run the top of the key, run almost not a point roll, but having to facilitate the ball more is just not what you want on this Fort Scott offense.
Well, and we've seen her kind of rotate to that top of the key position and work the ball kind of around the arc and swing it, but we haven't seen her try to take an aggressive pass underneath, and that one just didn't quite work out. As a foul, I mean, as much as you don't want to see players foul here for Fort Scott, as that's going to be a big number to keep an eye on, it seems to be of their benefit because Independence is struggling from the line right now.
And they get a big deep breath. Don't forget that. The main key is exhaustion. They get to sit down for a minute and just literally catch their breath.
Moss gives it off to Fedina. Tries to rotate underneath. Now they'll reset with 12 on the shot clock. Fedina outside the arc, finds a screen. Tries to carve her way underneath, and it's taken away again. She gets tripped up and catches a knee to the face. Alaini has a wide open lane, and Fort Scott is forced to take a timeout. Coach Sturgis probably feeling a little bit rattled, but I mean, you gotta give it to the credit of these Greyhounds players. They are playing their hearts out through some hardship.
Yeah, for sure. This is a test of your might right here. I mean, this game is going to prove to Fort Scott, it's going to prove to themselves what are they capable of this season. This game, if they win this, if they come out to win this game, I think their season could be really good. And Coach Sturgis, as you can see right now, is laying into her players. And what we want to see is how they take accountability to this situation, how they answer.
Pulaw temporarily applies that back brace. Might be a bit of a heating pad as well, which could be a little bit relieving for that short term for Ashley Pulaw. course, hope for a speedy recovery for both her and MacArthur, but she's playing gritty out here right now, keeping the aggression high. Works it to midcourt with Fultz. The full court press from Independence, not working in their favor. Moss has an open look. It bounces around before bouncing out of the rim. Now she'll take a power dribble. Here's Moore from mid-range, no good. Rebound Moss. Moss tries again. She'll get another one. Falling away off the backboard glass, and Moore is batted to the ground as Independence gets the rebound.
And Drake, there's that speed we were talking about over commercial break. Both the centers are down on the floor. The 5v3 transition offense.
And that is not the shot that you want from Independence if you are missing Fort Scott's two big centers. You've got to take something underneath there. They walk away empty-handed.
So just a really bad shot decision. You can't sugarcoat it. It's the worst thing you could have done there. Independence is what they need to do is capitalize off those mistakes. And what they did there is the exact opposite.
Blah! Shows some grit. Knives her way underneath and grabs a two. Extends this lead back to 6. Started off the second half with an 8-point lead for the Greyhounds. Independence already has cut into it a little bit. Mimi White, haven't seen her tonight. This is her first couple of minutes as Smith tries to work it underneath. White finds herself outside the perimeter, trying to cut down. Can't find an open look, has to dish it off to Smith, and she gets it off at the buzzer. These possessions going down to the last second for both of these teams as we see Rasaw head to the scores table to check in, and this one's batted out by Stillwell Smith. Rasaw comes in for Mariah Moss.
Now that we're halfway into this third quarter, Fort Scott can finally go back to that one forward, one center offense.
And a foul called underneath as they took over. And headed to the line will be Nia Chandler. Her first time to the free throw stripe. Right now, Independence 9 of 29 from the floor, and make it 6 of 12 from the charity stripe. 50%. And just over that now as Chandler drops in both. First time we've seen a 2 for 2 from the stripe from Independence. Or excuse me, second time. The first time was Ryland Chandler. And we get a foul called on Independence. Loose ball is tipped by the Pirates. Last touching it was Alaini. Fedina feeling the pressure on the inbounds as she works it to Fultz. And now Fort Scott will get to settle in on offense for the first time in a couple of possessions. Rasaw finds herself at the top of the key, hands it off, Fultz over to Pula. Now Fedina pushing back against Alaini. Pula trying to handle underneath. Finds a shot, it hits off the rim, but Moore gets the board and the buckets. And we've got an injured Pirates on the floor. That's Joy Birababy. Holding her shoulder. And checking in for her will be Renaya Tillman.
And hopefully Tillman can bring some size underneath for this Independence defense, because 35 just went down there and just took care of business. She didn't let anybody get in her path there.
29-25. As here's Alaini taking it down the floor. Nia Chandler with the ball now. Rotates it to White on the left. Looking underneath, and it's batted by Moore. Moore trying to move it to Fedina. It'll be recovered by Pula, who hits the deck, and Adriana Moore does as well. The physicality maybe coming back to bite the Greyhounds, as Mariah Moss will be forced to step in, and that's going to be the third, at least minor injury that we've seen on the Fort Scott side. So we'll take a break with this media timeout. 29-25 is the score, and we'll be right back on Fort Scott Sports Live, presented by Crawcan.
Selling equipment can be a hassle, whether you're needing to replace an old tractor or you're finally getting to retire. The time and energy needed to clean, prep, promote, and sell seems daunting. That's why you need Tyler Jackman and Big Iron Auctions. From one piece to the whole farm, Big Iron Auctions can deliver your items to more than 750,000 registered bidders. Call Tyler Jackman at 620-404-8115 or learn more at BigIronAuctions.com. Call service is outstanding in their field, especially for those that are stuck, well, outstanding in their field. Calls carries a wide selection of farm, industrial, and heavy-duty tires, all from the best brands in the business. And they've got farm service trucks ready to go. Plus, Calls continues to be the place folks go for car and truck tires, repairs, oil changes, and so much more. If you're in the market for new tires in Southeast Kansas, make the right call to Call Service, 620-724-4121. See more at callservicellc.com. You've heard.
Back on Fort Scott Sports Live here in the third quarter of action. 29-25 is the score. 4:52 on the clock. Seen a lot of physicality from this Greyhounds team. A lot of exhaustion, a lot of little tweaks, but they are fighting through it here tonight. Here's Mimi White. Rotates it to Naya Chandler, who finds a mid-range two and drops in. Cuts it down to a one-possession game for the first time in a minute that we've seen it. They'll move it into Foltz on the inbound. Have to give it back to Pua, and now to Fedina, who moves it to Moss across midcourt. Moss will slow things down and keep it outside the perimeter with Fedina. Shot clock winding down at 10 now. Brassard tries to carve her way underneath. Foltz finds her first shot of the night. Falls off the front rim. No dice, and Brassard will be called for a foul. And that's going to be a costly one, as Brassard now enters deep foul trouble with her fourth.
Well, that's exactly what you can't do, and I guarantee you Coach Starr just told her in the halftime, don't do that. So you could tell by the immediate reaction. She was just bonehead move, and that's exactly what you can't do if you're Fort Scott in this situation, especially with how skinny your depth is. It's almost none at this point.
Sturgis says why, as Brassard takes her seat on the bench. Here's Alini trying to make it her way underneath, and loose ball from Renaya Tillman goes out of bounds, and Fort Scott will get to take over on a bit of a sigh of relief there, as that ball was working a little too deep into their coverage. Pula gets the inbound and works it to Fedina. Fedina rotates it to Moss as they get across midcourt. And now slowing things down with 20 on the shot clock. Fedina works underneath. Kick out. Here's Pula for three. Yes! Ashley Pula connects from range and extends this lead to 6.
If Fort Scott can keep those threes raining down, that'll give them a huge sigh of relief, because that makes it a 2-possession difference every single time. Because we have not seen Independence make a single through this game. Three-pointers are going to be Fort Scott's best friend if they can make them.
Mimi White tries to go underneath, and Moore gets called on the reach over the top. Moss gives her some words of encouragement as Now noticing Adriana Moore has that right pinky wrapped. Stillwell Smith tries to go underneath, had a great move on the pivot, but couldn't connect on the shot. Now using all the bodies here from the Greyhounds to work this ball down the floor. Pula gets another three. She's on fire. Connects from the top of the key, and this stadium is erupting.
Drake, there it is. That's what I was talking about. Now it's a 4-bucket game for Independence, assuming they won't make it 3-for-3.
Fedina pickpockets, but can't keep it in bounds without giving it right back. And kickball called against Mariah Moss will slow things down temporarily. Wow, the excitement continuing to grow as Ashley Pula opens up the gates from the perimeter. On the inbound here is Karma Lewis. She works it in to Stillwell Smith. Underneath, Renaya Tillman gets fouled on the floor. Called against Ashley Pula.
That's what you don't want to see before Scott. Pula needs to be careful from now on. That's only her second foul, actually. I thought it was her third, but still, you don't want to see. You just really want to see her put trust in her center down there and let her battle that one-on-one.
Well, and you were right. It is her third foul. We'll make sure that the scores table, because that's really what matters. They may have different, but live stats show 3 fouls as the first and the second free throw fall down. But that does put her in a bit of trouble as we wind down this third quarter. If she can keep it at 3 through the third, I think she'll be all right. Here's Mariah Moss, top of the key, fighting some physicality. Now she'll go underneath, in for the layup. Keeping this scoring streak alive here for the Greyhounds. Mariah Moss with 12 on the board.
Mariah Moss is a freight train coming downhill. I wouldn't even want to take a charge from her. There's just not much stopping her.
I have no clue what just happened there. That ball went sky high there for a moment, but Mariah Moss now in a double-double with 10 rebounds and 12 points. Big time here for the center.
And what's so special about Mariah Moss is how agile she is at her size. I mean, she can move around perfectly.
Lutra Mehmeti, the freshman forward from Kosovo, drains a 3, the first of the night for Independence. Cuts the lead down to 5. Pula tries to drive underneath, and Adriana Moore will get called for a foul. That is bonus, I believe. And that it is. So headed to the line. I forgot who got fouled. We'll see who it is that will be taking these shots for the Pirates. Looks to be 33, Renaya Tillman.
She's working with a flat tire right now, taking her shoe on and off. And don't hurt yourself now. It's the last thing this game needs is another injury.
So they're working with Renaya Tillman, freshman center, and Mehmeti, freshman forward. Tillman standing 6'1", Mehmeti standing 5'10". And I'll tell you what, for a center, Renaya Tillman shooting very efficient from the line, sitting 3 for 3 from the charity stripe. And that's going to be a lane violation called against Sophia Fedina, which gives Renaya Tillman another chance as she missed on that second free throw.
It's the last thing Fort Scott needs, another self-inflicted mistake.
And she capitalizes. Cuts it down to a 3-point game. Fort Scott maintains a lead. Just a little bit softer than it was before as we enter the final 60 of the third quarter. Fedina works it quickly to Moss. Moss to Pula on the perimeter. Now Fedina on the opposite side. Speedily carves inside, but can't find the bucket. Here's Stillwell Smith on the layup. Cuts it to a 1-point game here for Fort Scott. No more shot clock. 2 seconds separate shot clock and game clock, so this will pretty much take it to the end here for the Greyhounds. Pula working the perimeter with Fedina. Now to Moss. Fultz calling for Moore to rotate up. Pula finds herself wide open on a corner three, but just too far as this ball goes out of bounds and headed for the Pirates. Bit of a dry spell here for the Greyhounds, but they'll just need to hang on for this third quarter break and get themselves rested up for this fourth quarter of action. 5 seconds. Here's Alini. They hand it off. Three-pointer was no good from Mehmeti. And that will wrap up the third quarter. We enter the fourth, 37-36. It's been a defensive fight, and it's been an aggressive one here in Arnold Arena. We'll be right back on Fort Scott Sports Live, presented by Crawcan.
You've heard go big or go home. At Big Iron Auctions, you can go big from home. With thousands of pieces of equipment, active auctions, bidding at your convenience, and an easy-to-use site, BigIronAuctions.com can help you grow big. Call Tyler Jackman at 620-404-8115 to see how Big Iron Auctions can help grow your operation. Bid now, list now at BigIronAuctions.com.
At the Farm and Ranch Division of the Four-State Agency, we're a team of experts who genuinely care about you and your farming operation. That's why whether it's a visit to your farm or a friendly chat at our office, we're committed to delivering the service you deserve. Our team is fully licensed in both crop insurance and LRP, allowing us to cover your entire farming operation across Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Contact us today to see how we can help.
Your home for live local sports.
And we're back. Fourth quarter, final 10 minutes in an action-packed matchup between the Greyhounds and the Pirates here in Arnold Arena. We talked about it over the break. Michael, tell us a little bit about this Fort Scott foul situation.
It's actually not as scary as you might think. Only people that are in trouble are Pula and number 22. 22 has 4 fouls and Pula has 3. What that means is that the Sinners only have 2 fouls or less, which is humongous when they're attacking the paint late in the game for Independence.
Moore and Fedina with 2 fouls. Mariah Moss only at 1. And that's the most of what we've seen here for the Greyhounds. Moss finds herself wide open on the perimeter. Surprised we didn't see even an attempt from three-point range as she gets one from in between the legs of the post and grabs a bucket. Taking advantage of opportunity. It was Renaya Tillman who shuffled around with the ball and couldn't quite get a grasp on it. Here's Adriana Moore on the defense against Renaya Tillman, and Tillman could not capitalize. That's great defense by Moore, making it very exaggerated as she was not putting her hands on her.
Yeah, Tillman tried to replicate what Moss just did, and she just can't because Moss is just that much better than everybody else in this court. It feels like nobody has an answer for Mariah Moss. I think we'll see that for the rest of the fourth quarter.
Here's Pula on the perimeter. Works it to Fultz now underneath. Moore will try to get under the skin of the Independence defense, and shot clock violation will end the possession. And like we said before, certainly not the worst thing that could happen to Fort Scott, extending their possessions and using up all that shot clock, not turning the ball over prematurely. It essentially takes a minute off per possession transaction between these two teams. So 3-point difference. It's only one possession. You'd like to see him extended a little bit further before playing too conservative, but Rasaw steps on for Adriana Moore as she's gonna get her finger checked out once more. White working the outside. for the Pirates, and now a foul called against Sophia Fedina as she was coming in as the Wolf.
That was on Fedina, or was it on 14?
It was on Fedina.
Okay. So that gives her third foul?
Yes. So 3 fouls for Fedina. She was coming in from behind on Jada Liney. And now she will be inbounding it for the Pirates. Trying to find an open body, and she does. Bira Bebe steps back in for Independence. Now here's Liney trying to drive in. Bira Bebe gets called for a travel. And another costly turnover as Coach Price making quick substitutions. You mess up, you're coming on the bench and you're gonna recollect.
Coach Price is a very stern female, as you can see down here. She does not take crap from anybody, and she's doing a great job of coaching her players and keeping them disciplined, and it's worked thus far. They were within 3 points. I admire her coaching ability.
Ekwerike steps in for Bira Bebe. Fedina on the close perimeter. Rousseau over to Fultz. Fultz finds an open lane, will cut underneath and can't grab the layup, but it's out of bounds. Called out of bounds on Moss. I didn't even think she had a hand in there, but she's not arguing the call, so maybe a sign that it was correct.
Yeah, last thing you need if you're Fort Scott is to get rattled up. Stay cool, calm, collected, and they're doing a great job of that so far. They're building each other up after every mistake. They're staying level-headed. That's what you need to see late in this game.
Under 8 minutes remaining. Every possession counts here for Independence as they try to work their way back in. Mimi White takes a 3-point shot. Stillwell Smith grabs the air ball board and gets the 2. They're trying to apply the full court, but not 2 heads up here from Independence, and Liney gets called for a foul. Coach Price fired up here on this sideline. She understands what it means to have everything firing here. I mean, you've got to take advantage of this opportunity that you've got against this Greyhounds team. Rousseau at the point. Finds Fedina, and now they work it to Moss. This one's taken away, trying to catch up. As no good on the layup, and no good on the putback from Ekwerike. And on the first initial shot was Mehmeti. Good thing they didn't foul Mehmeti. She's been shooting pretty well from outside the arc. I'm certain she could probably put down some free throws. We'll get to see the first ones from the stripe from Ekwerike, and she capitalizes.
It's really a bummer from Mehmeti because she's kind of been their silent killer this game. She made a big 3-point shot at the end of the earlier quarter. I mean, she's really done a little things we haven't seen on camera just yet. Really sucks she couldn't capitalize in a big moment.
And the first lead in this contest for Independence, 40-39. Greyhounds have been silent here in the fourth quarter. Gotta pick it up and grab this lead back as Moss has it at the top of the key. Tries to work underneath. Now here's Pula showing some aggression. Goes up, no dice. She gets her own board. Has the kick out in Fedina, but takes the contested shot. And now it's Liney coming down the floor. Foul called against Fedina. She had her hands straight up. And gets called for a late whistle. And that will be the 4th against Sophia Fedina. And headed to the line is Jade Liney. Liney currently on this contest is 2 for 3 from the stripe as she makes her 3rd of the night.
Now Fort Scott has officially surrendered the lead. Let's see how they respond. That's really what matters here. How do they respond from this huge right hook from Independence?
And now Independence is going to back off, play a little more conservative on defense. No more full court press. That has been their strong suit. Surprised to see them pull off in this fashion.
I don't understand that call from Coach Price, but I'm assuming they just don't want to give up free transition buckets to give them an easy way to call back.
Rousseau works it. Foltz has the mid-range shot, and it just can't fall. A little too hard off the rim. No good. As White tries to get down low. They'll work it back outside. Here's Chandler. She gets the layup and extends it officially to a 2-possession lead. 5 points, and Fort Scott needs a timeout. We'll take one with them. 39-44 is the score. We'll be right back on Fort Scott Sports Live, presented by Crawcan.
Your home for live, local sports. Varsity Sports Live delivers professional level coverage with high-quality video and broadcasters that know your schools and community.
Touchdown, Tonganoxie!
With the support of local businesses, you never pay to watch varsity sports. Live, local, free high school sports coverage. That's Varsity Sports Live.
Grass gets it away. Moore's down the middle. And he makes the catch in the end zone. Touchdown, Trojans!
Keep up with the action at varsitysportslive.com. Live, local, free high school sports.
Today we're going to...
And we're back. 44-39, 5-point gap as Fort Scott here in this fourth quarter just has not been able to get much going. Right now, only 2 points in the fourth quarter as they came into this with 37 as opposed to Independence's 8. Independence has outscored Fort Scott in 3 consecutive quarters. Fort Scott's just been working off that first quarter lead from then on.
Yeah, I'll tell you what the issue is personally. I believe they're scared of fouling out. That's what I truly think it is. They're trying to set back and be conservative, but at this late in the game, you're now down 5 points at the midway through the fourth quarter. It's time to go back to where you were in the first quarter and be aggressive, be physical. The fouls will come, they're going to happen, you have to deal with them. But you got to score points, and you do it the best when you're aggressive and you're physical.
Here's Fedina taking the points, directing the offense for Fort Scott. Looks like Independence in kind of a 2-1-2, modified 2-3 zone of some sort. As Fedina has it on the right side. Foltz works it around to Pula. Pula up top to Fedina, who takes a shot, and it'll be blocked and taken away by Nia Chandler. Chandler with a bit of a one-on-one here. Alini loses the ball, and it'll be a jump as Pula jumps on it. Great aggression from Ashley Pula. It will stay with Independence, as the possession arrow indicates, but forces a bit of a slower transition here.
And there's that physicality and aggression I was talking about. Coach Sturgis tells them to keep fighting, baby.
They're going to come out and wipe this court.
Fort Scott, yeah, they just need to keep that fire. They need to light that fire under their own butts and just go back and just firing on all cylinders like they were in the first quarter.
Alini will be on the inbound and work it to Mimi White. Would have liked to see a little more pressure here from Fort Scott, as they're in a zone defense now. Certainly worked better in man. 3-point shot from Nia Chandler doesn't fall, and it's out of bounds. Last touch by Foltz.
And I'll tell you why. That's exactly why they're in that zone defense. They want Independence to take those shots and not comfortable with those 3-point shots. They don't want to have to let them drive in the paint and having a foul on themselves. It'll cause them to foul out.
Alini once again on the inbound, works it in to Querke. Nia Chandler, shot clock at 10. Here's a shot from Mehmeti that falls from 3 and extends this lead to 8.
If there's one person you don't want to shoot the ball on this Independence team, it's Finetti. And Fort Scott, they got slow on their rotations right there, and Independence capitalized the out of game, which is what they've done this whole fourth quarter.
Mariah Moss, her pass gets taken away. Mehmeti was looking to open up the three-point ball again, and great ball movement. Gets another 2, and now it's a double-digit lead for Independence as they begin rolling here on offense. Fort Scott just hasn't been able to get the ball underneath, and the rebounds have not been coming down in their favor either, which is the 2 things that we said were the strong suits for the Greyhounds, and they haven't been able to capitalize.
Yeah, they're starting to crumble. They're starting to get exhausted. They're starting to get mentally exhausted, physically exhausted. And it's just this last 38 minutes, 36 minutes of play have just taken a toll on them. They're starting to struggle to handle the rest of these 4 minutes.
Foltz will be on the inbound duty as she works it to Fedina. Fedina rotates it to Pula, and now Foltz on the perimeter. Rasaw at the elbow, tries to get underneath and gets the 2. First points in a long time for Fort Scott here in this 4th quarter, but hopefully starting a bit of a streak. Here's a 3-point shot from White, won't go, rebound Moss as she tosses it to Fedina, trying to get the transition bucket, but they'll slow things down. Now here's Moss at the point, works it to her left. Slowing things down. Foltz finds Rasaw once more at the elbow. Fedina takes a mid-range 2 and grabs another bucket. 2 consecutive, now a 6-point difference for Independence as they maintain their lead. Fort Scott trying to crawl back into this one. Alaini will get the call from coach, and timeouts with 20 on the shot clock, 2:59 remaining in this ball game. Fort Scott will more than likely have to be perfect on offense going forward, Michael.
Yeah, I really want to talk about Medina right there. That shot looked incredibly comfortable. I guarantee you she practiced that shot in practice. I guarantee you the offensive roles are going to lie on her the last 3 minutes. She seems to have the most comfortable shooting capabilities in this team. And they're going to, when it comes down to it, these last 90 seconds, she's going to have to let it fly if they want to see this league start to shrink.
Well, and not to mention Pula being one of the biggest scoring assets for this Fort Scott team that's still on the floor. Of course, MacArthur taking that role as well. But Pula just not being able to be as physical as she would like to be with that lingering back tweak that we've seen her deal with in this second half. So hoping that she can kind of come alive, but still stay pretty healthy throughout the remainder of this game. Alaini tries to carve up the left side, finds an opening. Here's Chandler, puts up a 2, a physical 2, grabs the bucket. Back to 8 points here for Independence. Fedina works it across midcourt, finds Pua. Underneath, Adriana Moore gets called for a charge. Alaini had set her feet. And a costly turnover. Is going to punish the Greyhounds. They transition it to the corner, and it's out of bounds on Rousseau. Chandler works it in to Alaini inside of 120 seconds remaining in this contest. And Alaini gets fouled on her way to the bucket. Alani capitalizes on her first of 2. Foul trouble now kind of out of the equation here for Fort Scott, as it's really just got to get the ball back as soon as possible. Alani drops in her second, going 2 for 2 from the line, and keeps it a 10-point lead. Feel like if you're Fort Scott at this point, probably hoping to open up the 3-point game again, but with only 2 guards, you've limited those capabilities. Usaw works it to Fadina. Over to Pula. Pula underneath, gets fouled, and will be headed to the line. I thought that one was gonna end up falling, but just comes off of the front of the rim.
Yeah, we really need to see a surge out of Pula in these last 90 seconds. See, I like to see her attacking the basket and start drawing fouls so she can get free, uncontested shots at the line, obviously. That's where Fort Scott's going to see a lot of their success in these late minutes.
And some turnovers as well on the full court press, assumingly, as Pula goes 2 for 2 from the line.
Speaking of going 2 for 2, even if you've noticed, Independence has done a great job with the line themselves. That's what's gotten them this 8-point lead. They've finally converted on the chances that Fort Scott's given them.
And another timeout called by the Greyhounds will slow this game down periodically. But an 8-point lead is going to be hard to manage, as if you're Independence, you're probably drawing up a way to stall. You know you're up by at least 3 possessions on the Greyhounds with 90 seconds remaining. If you can take 30 seconds off the clock with each possession, you're gonna claim victory. There's very few ways that Fort Scott ends up coming out on top if that's the case.
Agreed. But I promise you, Coach Sturgis is not gonna let that happen. They're gonna be pressing all 94 feet. And it's almost impossible to keep the ball for 30 seconds when you're getting pressed.
Well, I mean, you would think they'd come out in full court press, but I will say they didn't have it drawn up immediately on that inbound. And I think part of the reason is because you have Fadina, who's been out there pretty much all 30 minutes so far. And not to mention, you also have Pua, who's a little bit suffering mobility right now with that back injury. So it's hard as a team to have, your 2 quick guards be a little bit slowed by the circumstances of the ball game. So it looks like Fultz is going to be taking that down low, and Fadina going to be covering a little bit of a middle zone. They're going to try and keep him behind half court for 8 seconds, if possible. And they work it across to Mimi White. This one's poked, but to no avail, as Alani will use her handles at the point. Shot clock at 10 as it begins to expire. White, top of the key, works it to Mehmeti. Mehmeti takes a long 3 look, and this one ends up in the hands of Alani. She works it underneath. Stillwell Smith grabs a bucket, and I think that is probably the nail in the coffin here for the Greyhounds. They're gonna need a miracle to pull this one off. Rasaw, like to see her just take that shot, even if you're not confident. Moss, Pua, pump fake, underneath, no good. Fultz fouled.
On the ground was the call.
39 seconds. This is just, I think, out of reach at this point. You took a little too long developing the offense on the transition. And then the missed shot turned foul. Pua works it to the outside. Fadina works it across. You gotta take a shot here. Pua underneath, can't get the bucket, and Foltz gets the putback. 47-55, 8 points, and I think Coach Sturgis recognizes that given the circumstances, this one is near impossible. And the clock expires. (47-55) final score here in Arnold Arena as we wrap up the Monday evening showdown between the Pirates and the Greyhounds. We'll go ahead and transition right into our post-game show here on Fort Scott Sports Live, presented by Crawcan. Michael, what'd you see here tonight? I mean, obviously, other than the outstanding factors that, you know, carrying throughout this season, Fort Scott might need to work on.
Well, immediately, like you said, outstanding factors, getting healthy. But at a gameplay standpoint, I would say, it's hard to say when you saw so many components just out of place. They were just so caught off guard. The game plan went out the window in the first 30 seconds. I would say what you need to take away from that is learning how to adapt throughout the season. Adaptability.
Yeah, I mean, you're missing 4 bodies on the bench. Jada Pascal, Anaya Hicks Robinson, Aaliyah Davis, and Haley Edmondson not present in tonight's game. And that cuts your roster down to 7 in what, I mean, assumingly, in what should have been an easy win for the Greyhounds, or maybe not an easy, but a pretty standard victory for the Greyhounds as they came out striking. Turns into a game completely turned on its head. And now you've got not only MacArthur suffering an injury that might render her immobile for a couple of games, and as well as Pula, who's going to have that lingering energy, and Adriana Moore, who's got a bit of a hand tweak going on there. So even if these players are still active going forward in these next couple of contests, it could be a difference maker in their playability and how they move the ball and how they move themselves. It just, there's a lot of factors at play that this game is going to impact the rest of the season, not to mention losing that undefeated record here early on might completely derail this whole system.
Yeah, this loss is a really tough one to battle from. They're going to have a lot of adversity to fight through these next couple of weeks, like you said, with all those injuries and all that. This is going to be a really strong test of their might and their want and how much they want this to win this season. I'm really curious to see how Fort Scott handles it in the upcoming weeks.
Well, they've got 3 days until their next contest against McPherson JV, which I'm assuming they'll probably go a little bit soft on, you know, that being a reserve squad. And then their next contest against Eastern Oklahoma State College will be Tuesday the 18th. So a little over a week from now at home. So looking forward to that. And that will lead us into a 2-game away streak and then another 3-game home spell at the beginning of December. So as we kind of look forward, I think you could probably expect them to maybe be a little softer this Thursday against McPherson. That will not be on the coverage. But as we look forward in the Fort Scott Sports Live schedule, let me pull it up right here. As we look forward, next Tuesday, Fort Scott women's basketball against Eastern Oklahoma. And then later on in that week, the 22nd, men's basketball versus Palm Beach will be covered here on Fort Scott Sports Live. So stay tuned for those, as we're going to have developments throughout the season. This just got a lot more interesting, having some very key players dealing with some lingering injuries. Hopefully, of course, hoping for a speedy recovery on all of those fronts. But as we wrap up here today, Michael, any final thoughts?
Not really. I think we've covered it all. Like you said, Fort Scott really just needs to figure out their identity now. They're going to have to find a new identity in the next couple of weeks, and it comes with through practice. I think how are they going to answer? And I'm sure Coach Sturgis has an answer to that. I'm sure they have a great coaching staff. We saw it throughout this game. They did a great job of game planning and adapting on the fly. It just too little, too late, and they just didn't have the numbers. So I'm confident they'll find a good answer. Just only time will tell.
Well, we'll wrap it up here on Fort Scott Sports Live, presented by Crochan. We say good night from Arnold Arena, and we hope to see you all next time on Fort Scott Sports Live. Thanks for watching, and have a great night. This is Drake and Michael signing off.
From the gridiron to the hardcourt, the pitch to the mat, don't miss any of the action. We're there with live, local sports coverage at VarsitySportsLive.com.